You ever have that feeling where you know exactly what you should be doing, but you just can't bring yourself to do it? If you've ever tried to just muscle through a task with pure willpower and failed, well, you're in the right place. We're going to dive deep into the science of what makes us tick, all based on the work of psychologist Ayelet Fishbach and her incredible book, Get It Done. It all kicks off with this wild old story about Baron Munchausen. The legend goes, he got stuck in a swamp and pulled himself and his horse out by grabbing his own hair and yanking. It's a crazy image, right? And it's become this perfect, though totally impossible metaphor for how we think motivation is supposed to work, that we just have to grit our teeth and pull ourselves out of the mud. But what if that entire idea is just wrong? What if the reason you're struggling to get things done isn't because you're lazy or you lack discipline or your willpower is weak? The core argument here is revolutionary. The problem isn't you. And here's the game-changing idea. Motivation isn't some magical internal flame that you either have or you don't. It's a design problem. The science tells us you don't achieve things through brute force. You do it by strategically changing your circumstances. You literally become an architect of your environment to make the right choice the easiest choice. Okay, so where do we start building this system? It all begins with the goals themselves. The way you frame a goal at the very start can be the difference between something that pulls you forward with excitement and something that feels like you're dragging a ton of bricks. So, Fishbach points out 3 huge traps we all fall into that just suck the life out of our goals. Think about it. Is your goal just a boring step, like save for a down payment, instead of the actual dream, which is own a home I love? Is it too specific and dull, like answer 10 emails, instead of something inspiring, like build stronger relationships with my colleagues? And the big one, are you focused on what you're trying to avoid? This right here is key. Do goals, or approach goals, are all about moving towards something positive. They're exciting. But do not goals, or avoidance goals, can seriously backfire. You know that classic brain teaser, right? If I tell you, whatever you do, don't think of a white bear, what's the very first thing that pops into your head? A big white bear. When you focus on what you're trying to avoid, you're actually keeping it front and center in your mind. Now, there's a little bit of nuance here. The book makes a great distinction between ought goals. These are the things you feel you have to do, like wearing a seatbelt. For these, an avoidance frame, like avoiding an accident, works really well. When you succeed, you feel relief. But then you have your ideal goals, the big, exciting aspirations, like learning to paint. For those, you need an approach frame, like mastering a new technique. Success there feels like joy and pride. It's all about finding the right fit for the right goal. Okay, so you've set a killer goal. It's framed perfectly, but what happens in week 3 when the initial shine is worn off and you just want to quit? Well, that brings us to the next big piece of the puzzle, how you sustain your momentum. There's this super cool scientific principle called the goal gradient effect. And it's simple. Researchers found that rats in a maze literally run faster the closer they get to the cheese at the end. And guess what? We are exactly like those rats. The closer we get to finishing something, the more our motivation kicks into high gear. Progress itself is rocket fuel. And the best part is, you can actually hack this. Check out this brilliant study. At a coffee shop, one group of customers got a loyalty card needing 10 stamps for a free coffee. Another group got a 12-stamp card, but, and here's the trick, it came with 2 bonus stamps already filled in. Now, both groups needed to buy 10 coffees, but the group that felt like they already had a head start, they filled their cards way faster. That little bit of what's called illusory progress made the whole goal feel closer and more achievable. But let's be real, progress is never a straight line. We almost always run into what Fishbach calls the middle problem. You know this feeling. You start a new project and you're full of energy. As you get near the end, you get that second wind. But that long, boring, messy middle, that's where motivation goes to die. So how do you push through that slump? There are a few great strategies. First, chop up the middle. Create smaller sub-goals with their own little finish lines. Second, and this is so important, look backward. Instead of stressing about how far you have to go, take a moment to appreciate how far you've already come. It reinforces your commitment. And third, add some fun right now. Bundle a task you're dreading with something you love. Only let yourself watch your favorite show while you're on the treadmill. It makes the journey itself rewarding. Of course, in the real world, none of our goals exist in a neat little bubble. We're never just doing one thing at a time. We're juggling everything all at once. The way we handle this is through what's called a goal system. Our brain is constantly subconsciously running the numbers. We tend to choose actions that help the most goals while damaging the fewest. This is why a simple decision like whether to make a healthy lunch can feel so complicated. It helps your health goal and your budget goal, but it might hurt your get to work on time goal. We're constantly navigating these invisible trade-offs. Okay, so let's tie this all together. Let's build a practical, actionable toolkit you can use to actually design your own motivation system. It really comes down to these 4 steps. 1. Frame your goals as inspiring ideals. Make them something you're excited to work towards. 2. Set do goals. Focus on what you're moving toward, not what you're running from. 3. Make the process itself enjoyable by adding immediate rewards. And 4. When you feel your motivation dip, look back. Remind yourself of all the progress you've already made to strengthen that commitment. So if you take away only one thing from this, let it be this idea. Motivation isn't a character trait you're born with. It's not something you have. It's something you build. It's not about having more grit. It's about being a smarter designer of your own world. And that really just leaves us with one final question to think about. Now that you know these principles, what's one small change you can make? How are you going to start designing your motivation? All of these powerful insights come from the book Get It Done, Surprising Lessons from the Science of Motivation by psychologist Ayelet Fishbach. It's a fantastic guide for anyone who wants to fundamentally change how they approach their goals.